Hello guys, welcome to our fifth episode on our CSS tutorial for beginners. In this particular episode, we'll be taking a look at the box model, CSS3 box model, and some of the properties that come together to form the box model. First of all, I just created my order.html file. Then I have my CSS file linked to it, which I just I have a heading, and I change the default background color to black, then just some few styling. I think I did all this in our previous episode. Okay, so actually every element that can be displayed on a web page comprises of one or more rectangular boxes. The CSS box model typically describes how these rectangular boxes are laid out on a web page. These boxes can have different properties and can interact with each other in different ways. But every box actually has a content area and an optional surrounding pattern, border, and margin areas. Quickly guys, let's take a look at what a border is. So first of all, I'm just going to have some random text here. Okay, let's save. So that's it. Okay, now let's select it and start coding. So now we are first of all going to take a look at the border. The border properties actually is used to just specify the area between an element an element box. Basically that's it, and it has three main properties. You have the border style, border color, and the border width. The border style actually is used to specify what type of border you want to use. So first of all, let's start. So we've selected our element, which is P. So let's say border style. And with VS Code, we can see a tons of them. We have dotted, we have double, groove, heading, inherit, initial, insert. I'll be taking you guys through just a few of them. So first of all, let's just take dotted and see what happens. So we can see a dotted border around our content. This is our content. This random text is our content, and we can see this dotted border around it, around the content. Okay, let's change to dashed. So that's the border style. Use the border style to specify what type of border you mean, because there are tons of them out there. Are you going to use dash, dotted, or solid, groove, or any of them? So use the border style to actually specify what type of border you want to use. So when we save, you can see a dash border around the content. Okay, of solid. Okay, so if you use a solid, you can see a solid border around the content. Okay, there's also groove, and we can see this 3D border around the content. Actually, there are tons of them out there, but most of them are not really used. By far the most popular one is just the solid. This by far, that's the most popular one. And what actually this does is, now what of border color, you can see that we have a wide border around our element, which is white, but we've not specified it. It actually inherited from our elements color, which we specify here as white. So now we can also have control over it by changing the color of the border. So with the help of the border color property, we can specify any border color we want, or assign any color to it. We can then use the color names, which in our third episode, I think so, I took you guys through CSS3 colors. You have the hex, the color names themselves, and also hexadecimals and stuffs. So let's say border color. So you can actually use the color names. Let's just say red. and we have what, a red border what, around our element or surrounding our element. We can also choose to say yellow. Then we have a yellow solid border around our element. Okay, now we also have a border width. With the border, we just specify the width of the what, the border. So let's just say border width. For instance, let's just say 5 pixels. 5 pixels. Wow, we can see that it's a bit big. The width has increased. Let's change it to 3. It has decreased a bit. So basically, these are the 3 properties you take into consideration when you are dealing with what, border. Also, you can specify the border, individual border for what, these 4 sizes. This is a rectangular box. This is we have top, we have left, we have the bottom, and we have the right side of it. So for instance, let's say I want to change the border color of our top border. So let's just say border top color. Let's say we are changing it to red, and see what happens. You can see that at the top here it has changed to what, red. So can we say border right color, border right color, and let's change that to maybe probably green, and let's save. Yes, we can see that this particular part has changed to green. Okay, let's change the left. Let's change the left. Let's change the left to green. And here to is green. So we have we have top as red, we have what, right and left as green, and we have the bottom as what, yellow. Okay, we can also actually what, change the width of any of the sizes. Let's say we want to change the width of what, the top border. So let's just say border top width. You can change that to, let's just say 5 pixels, and save. You could see that here is a bit bigger than the bottom border, and the left and the right border also. Let's take that off. Okay, with these codes, guys, you can see that we have repeated a lot of codes here, which you are violating the rule of dry codes. Don't repeat yourself. So there's a shorthand property you can actually use. So let's just comment out this. Now you can equally just say, now let's save it so there's no border. So you can just say border, only border. Then you say maybe, let's just say 3 pixels as the width. Then the style is solid. Then the color is, let's just say red, and save. Wow, now we have what, a 3 pixels solid red border around our element. If only you want to manually or individually change the border sizes of maybe the top, the left, the right, and the bottom, then you can go with all these. But if you just want the same color to be repeated, then this is the shorthand property you go about. Okay, now as we can see here, this is the border is too close to the content. Let's take that we want to add some spacing between our content and our border. So this brings us to padding. So with the padding, it actually clears the space between the content and the border. That's the work of the padding. That's what padding property it does. So for instance, let's just say padding. Let's say padding is 30 pixels. Let's say. Okay, now let's break this down before, but guys, you see what happened. we can see that there's space here, there's space here, there's space here, there's space here. Let's take it off and see. Now there's no spacing again. Okay, so I want to comment out this code. So let's just say we have what? Pattern top. Come guys. So actually we have what? Pattern top. We also have pattern right, then pattern bottom, then pattern left. These four sizes, kind of like it goes in a clockwise direction. So we have the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. So we can actually specify all kinds of properties with these sizes. So let's just say for instance we want to specify specify maybe 40 pixels padding to all the four sizes. So you just say padding, then you say 40 pixels. Now this is what happens. We have the 40 pixels padding both top and bottom and left and right. That's what is happening. Okay, what if in the case that we want to specify the pattern, want the pattern to only affect on top and bottom? Okay, let's take it that for instance we have three sizes. Let's just say pattern, then we have 10 pixels, 20 pixels. Let's specify 4 first. So 30 pixels and 40 pixels. So in this case, this is what happens. 10 pixels is the top is the top pattern. 20 pixels is the right pattern. 30 pixels is the bottom pattern. Then 40 pixels is the left pattern. That's the rule, and that's what I've commented here. You have pattern top, pattern right, pattern bottom, and pattern left. So 10 pixels is pattern top, 20 pixels is pattern right, 30 pixels is pattern bottom, 40 pixels is pattern left. So now let's save it and see what happens. So when we save, we could see that there's a bit spacing between the content and the border on top here, because you can see the size is small, 10 pixels. Now what of the right? With the right side, we can see there is there's another space here which is a bit bigger than the top here, which is 20 pixels. Now bottom, with the bottom which is 30 pixels, we can see there's also a bit spacing which is more than the top here, which that's 30 pixels. Then we have 40 pixels, and whose space is bigger than all. And we see that the space here is is bigger than the spaces at the top, the right, and the bottom. So if you individually want to specify the pattern of the four sizes, you want them to be different, then this is how you go. That's a shorthand property. You can equally say maybe pattern top, then you say 10 pixels, then you say pattern right, pattern right, then you say 20 pixels, then pattern bottom, then you say 30 pixels, then you have pattern left, which you say 40 pixels. So in place of all this repeating code, just all this code, you just use this shorthand property, which is highly advisable. So let's take that off. Okay guys, so what if, let me comment out this also, what if in the case that we have, let's just say 3 values, we have maybe 30 pixels, 20 pixels, then maybe 40 pixels. Now what happens when it's 3 pixels? Guys, take note. The first one, that's the 30 pixels, is for the top padding. Then the middle one, which is the 20 pixels, is for the left and the right padding. Guys, I take it again. 30 pixels is for the what? Top padding. 20 pixels, the one in the middle, is for right and left padding. 40 pixels is for bottom padding. Let's save it, see what happens. Now guys, see what is happening here. Okay, we said padding top, so see what is happening here, guys. So we have what? 30 pixels what padding specified at the top here. Then the 20 pixels on what both sides, that's here, the left and the right. Then 40 pixels what beneath. That's if they are what? 3 values. Okay. So what if they are what? One may ask, top 2 what values. So we have what? Padding. Then we see maybe 20 pixels and what? 30 pixels. So if there are 2 values, what actually happens is the first value or the first size, that's the 20 pixels, is for top and bottom. So you are saying that you are giving your element 20 pixels top and bottom, then 30 pixels left and right, and see what happens. When we save, we can actually see that there's what 20 pixels what for top and bottom, then 30 pixels for left and right. Okay, what if you want what? One pattern for all the size. Let's say pattern, maybe it's a pattern 50 what? Pattern what? 50 pixels. So the 50 pixels actually is for what? The entire 4 sizes. So both top, right, bottom, and the left. So if you see, they will all have an equal what? Pattern. Okay, you could also choose to see what? There's also auto. When you say this 50 pixels, let's see what happens. With this 50 pixels auto, what we are saying is the top and what the top and the top button, the top and the down button, or the top padding and the bottom padding should have a 50 pixels. Then the left and the right, the browser should what? Identify it, or the browser should specify it. That's what we are trying to say. That's when you bring auto. Okay, now let's take a look at what margin. What a margin is. So the margin also creates a transparent space between the border and the margin actually will specify the space between, that's outside what the margin, outside any defined what margin. So what it does at this particular space where my cursor is, that's where the margin effects will take place. Everything just here outside this particular box, the border, that's where the margin takes place. The margin will specify what the space what between this, so it will actually clear everything that is outside the box. So just to give it that space, not like you take it off, but it's just to give a space between that. So let's just say we have what margin. So with the margin property too, we also have margin top. Let me comment on this. No, I think it's just the same here. Let me just copy. Let me just copy here. So just change this to margin, and the right will just change it to margin. Also margin bottom. Also have margin left. So it just all is just in a clockwise manner. So we have what margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and what margin left. And with this, it doesn't affect the content area here. whereas it just the spacing here. It specifies space what outside the border, outside any defined border. So let's just say we want to clear some space between at the top here, or the margin top. So we just say margin top, which let's just say 50 pixels. Guys, see what happened when we save. We'll see that it has pushed down. So it has cleared that space, it has pushed it down, it has pushed our element down. It doesn't affect the pattern though, it just pushed it down. So let's just say we have even 90, it pushes it down. So let's just say 30, it goes top a bit. Okay, so that's margin top. But if you want to specify maybe margin right, let me say 40 pixels, see what happens. It actually clears that space that is here, the right hand side. So let's just say we have margin bottom, then we see another 40 pixels. Let's see, let's change the value, let's say 70. Actually it has cleared some space here, but it's transparent, that's why you guys are not seeing it. Now let's just say we have margin left, which let's say 50 pixels. Now you can see that has also cleared some spacing here. Good. So instead of doing all these, what we can actually do is we just say margin, then we see 30 pixels for what top, then 40 pixels for right, then 70 pixels for bottom, then 50 pixels for left. So let's just comment out this. So let's save, and it's still the same thing. So instead of all this, we just use this, which is much cleaner. So guys, basically that's how to use the margin property. Now let's take a look at width. So the width, actually we just with the width you just specify an amount of width for your element when you define element. So let's just say we have width, let's just say 500 pixels. We could see what is happening. We are giving a 500 pixels width to our element. And guys, this is what happens when you specify a width to an element. What actually happens is the pattern actually adds to the width. This 50 pixels actually adds to this 500 pixels. So what happens is this 50 pixels, we have 50 at the left, 50 at the right, that's 100 plus this 500, so that's the total width is actually 600 pixels. So if you don't want it that way and you actually just want 500 pixels, you say there's a property called box sizing. So just your box sizing, you say border box. Now we can see that it has decreased. Let's comment it out and save and see what is happening here. This is actually the width we specify. This is the width. So let's uncomment that and see. So with the box size, so this is actually 500 pixels. But if we don't specify the box size, let's uncomment that and save. You see it has stretched here, because it has stretched because the padding here has been added to the width, making it 600 pixels. This 50 pixels, that's 50 left, 50 right, plus this 500 pixels, making it. So let's say we don't want it that way, so you use box size and border box, and you can actually now get your 500 pixels. So guys, thank you for staying tuned. So briefly, this is how the box model actually it works. So you guys, if you like the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. More episodes are coming on CSS3. We'll be doing amazing stuff with CSS3. Thank you.